Welcome to Horticulture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. What is up, plant people?
Hello.
Greetings.
How are we doing
Hi.
today? Feeling planty?
Feeling
Feeling the winter vibes.
chilly.
Yeah,
Chilly,
what's the
like as in the food or the weather?
Ooh, both.
Okay. Just point of clarification.
I was gonna say, what is your general feeling after like the first hard frost or like the first freeze of the year? Because that's where we're at now. Like, I'm curious on the vibes when you like first walk outside.
The cabbage fields all smell funny.
Oh God, that is so true.
Yes.
Yeah, very true.
Crucifers.
Broccoli fields. You're like, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
Not
sulfur
good.
in the air.
Not good.
Children were very distressed over our New Guinea impatiens because we've had a warmer
Mhm.
fall. Like they were still blooming and really tall, and they came outside like the next day and we're like, "What the
Melted.
heck?" They're like, "What happened?" They're like flat.
Tonight.
Yeah, and they are. And I was like, "Yeah, we gotta clean that up on a little warmer day now." So.
Brett, what's your vibe?
Well, I used to be a cold weather guy, but in recent years I've become much more of a hot weather guy.
Okay.
And so I am not pleased. In the past, I would have been more pleased. I do think the transitional, like the feeling of like, okay, it's now cold, it's now winter, it's now fall even, was something I was missing. Heard somebody describe it as like a shedding of a skin almost, but overall, like, man, I don't like the cold.
Yeah, somebody said that to me recently where we were kind of talking about like the tired that we are at this fall, which is every year, but it just this year felt weird. And someone said, well, yeah, you've not had like that cold yet where you can like really finish up, like there's just something in your brain, like a switch flips and you can start cleaning up and like doing these like fall tasks, and it feels
I mean,
like you
flowers
should be
were
doing them.
blooming.
Yeah, I mean, there
until
were
recently.
flowers.
Yeah.
So it was, even though you can and should and normally would be, chopping those down or ripping them out or whatever, it felt like wrong to do that. And so now there's kind of that like permission almost from Mother Nature. And she's like, okay, all right, here you go.
That's why I have
enough.
melted impatiens that I still have to clean up.
Yeah.
Because they were still flowering.
Yeah, it's during that cleanup. I mean, that's it. That flips the switch when you're doing all the cleanup and everything. It has been kind of nuked.
I think I kind of was just like, finally, when it happened. Not because I particularly like the cold, but it just felt like all my chores were behind and I can't do anything, even though I definitely could have. I just didn't.
How am I going to drink my peppermint mochas when it's 71 degrees outside? The mood is all wrong. Yeah,
right.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
All like the little cows and stuff, like where we have cows, they already got their like winter fluff.
Yeah.
And then like these temperature swings and they're like, oh my gosh. And then now they're finally like, comfy. I mean, it's cold, right? But it's comfy for them.
Jealous.
I don't know.
That is the thing. I don't like walking out in the cold. It's like my nose it's been so cold that like breathing through my nose has like been burning because it's just like icy up in there. So
yeah, and it seems like it happened all of a sudden. We went, we have these swings here in our wonderful transitional state of zone 6 and 7 of Kentucky. I mean, one day it's going to be, 50-degree temperature swings are getting to be pretty commonplace here. And it is tough. I cannot keep up. And I know it's tough on animal herds. It stresses them when you have snaps back and forth with pneumonia and other problems. But yeah, I don't keep up either because the 25 degrees is a different 25 degrees when 2 days earlier it was 80 degrees. Okay,
Facts.
People. Now, when you ease into it on a fairly straight line curve, I can transition with that, but not these wild swings. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think we eased into it because all of a sudden it was like snow.
Yep.
Hey, snow. December 1st. Let's have some snow, which does get everybody in like the festive season.
I kind of liked it. I got my Christmas tree up and for the earliest time ever, not the week of Christmas.
I was thinking as I was driving home, I was like, I don't mind this cold like this month and maybe a little bit next month. But then after that, I'm usually like, okay.
Done with it.
Mid-February, I'm just like, I'm done. I'm over it. I don't want to scrape my car anymore.
It adds a layer of, difficulty to a lot of things, especially if you're doing things like, I don't know, some of you guys are that are always outside doing things. It adds just a layer of complexity and, just more
Mm.
friction in going about your daily activities. It can. But I don't mind the cold. If it stays this way, I'm just gonna bundle up and watch White Christmas from now through December 25th and maybe beyond. I don't know.
In my
Not
Maybe
the
experience,
Muppets
Ray,
Christmas Carol?
yeah, that too. Sure, all the
in my
things.
experience, Ray, it makes things less frictional, more slippery. But I
Oh,
don't know.
true.
Maybe it's a
Yeah.
different situation up where you.
That could be, it depends on how kinda sharp the icicles are maybe, I don't know.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
slippery is, be careful out there, people.
it does make, along with what you were just saying, one thing it makes easier is to like sit inside or gather inside
Mhm.
with other
Mhm.
people and
Yeah.
think about stuff.
That's one thing I enjoy actually about this weather is, I tend to, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to gather a little bit more, and it does flip some switches in my brain, that, seasonality does. So we've talked about that before. But yeah, the gathering and the kind of, the activities that
Uh,
you're involved in.
Alexis and I have always joked through the years, "See you in the winter,"
Yeah.
because spring and summer and fall is, it's
So
a
busy.
harder yeah, it's a harder time to commit to some of those social things, which seems
Yeah.
silly, but that's like your peak busy
Mhm.
When
growing
it's
season
daylight
time.
until 9:15, yeah, you're working till 9:30 if daylight is until 9:15, so it's
Mhm.
kinda hard to go in, get cleaned up, and go do something at 10:30 at night, unless you're that person that doesn't sleep.
Right.
Absolutely not. I will not be
No.
leaving my house any
Now
later
you
than
can
8
go and
PM.
have an evening of activities and be home by 5:30,
'Cause it's
in
already
the dark.
dark.
Yes, it's already dark at 5:15 or
Yeah.
5:30, whatever
I
it is
feel
now.
like, for me, who's kind of the crazy in my brain or, that doesn't allow myself the rest, it's like Mother Nature it's allowing me to rest in some way, like, physically. So I'm usually, like, inside if and on my computer working on, website stuff from the farm point of view, but I'm given
Records,
I've been
taxes.
given permission. Like I because I'm not going to give it to myself working
Yeah.
on it, goals for 2025, but uh it's like Mother Nature is like, "Okay, okay, I've had it. Go inside. Go away. Go."
And I feel like
Mhm.
there's predatory behavior here. It's not really, but I'm gonna joke a little bit. It feels like predatory behavior by the seed companies because they know this about, especially those of you guys that are actively growing things. So they send out these beautiful, pretty magazines with these gorgeous pictures of all the things, and then we're cooped up on the inside with maybe snow on the ground, maybe 10 degrees outside, and I don't know, that's another trigger in my brain that gets flipped with those nice pictures of all the different varieties of green beans, whatever.
We've already started going through ours and
No, you have not.
making lists, and we've already
Mhm.
got, like, 4 different ones that have arrived and
You're like the garden Santa Claus. You're making a list and checking it twice.
checking it twice, that's right.
I
I'm
love
always
it.
like, how did they get my info? Like, who, like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah,
know the main contact that I
Who
put my
shares it
info
out?
on. Yeah, that shares
yeah.
it out. Cause there's like seed companies and plant companies I've never heard of that I get a catalog with my
Wait a minute,
name
are you
on.
complaining that you get these nice catalogs? What? You're just
I'm
wondering.
complaining a little bit because I'm gonna order online anyways.
Hmm.
So
Hey,
there's only a couple seed catalogs I really want like a paper copy of. And I feel bad about the environment and the people wasting.
So, yeah, that's a great I was gonna ask you guys this earlier. When you get these beautiful seed catalogs, I'm one of those that, I do remember the Sears and Roebuck's catalogs, thank you. I'm the
Toys R
elder
Us.
geek of the group. Do you I know you probably what do you look through everything? Or do you just kinda look through and it reminds you you get the fruit and vegetable catalog or whatever, and then you immediately go online and don't look at the book again? Don't even crack it or do you crack them open when you get these, magazines and things?
yeah, we look through the books, and then
Yeah.
as we said, we make our list, and we do check
Okay.
it twice because then
Yeah.
we, like, pass the list on to my in-laws to review it as well,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then after the list is made and we've looked through all that, then I end up ordering everything online,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
of
then we
course.
recycle the books, and if you're lucky I don't know if this has happened to Alexis like it does to me, but I get them sent to, my maiden name and
Mhm.
my married name, and then my husband also gets sent one, so we'll all have, like, 3 or 4 of the
The
exact same
same one.
catalogs,
Yep.
and I'm just like, "How do we get just
I get
one?"
them at the
Yeah.
office and then at my home twice, so
Same.
it's yeah, it's like
Yeah.
3 of 'em,
Alexis,
all to a different version of me.
if
Yep.
yeah, and speaking of different versions of you, a little cute thing I do if I suspect maybe a company sells my information or shares my information with other companies, in this case that we're talking about, or any other case, I will be Leroy Jenkins sometimes, and I will know exactly who shared it. I will be a different,
Oh,
a
that's a good
different
way.
personality each time.
Damn it,
I will
Leroy.
be, hey
All these
Ray
alter
Leroy.
egos.
I'm getting mail from 30 different names at my house right now. It's amazing.
That's really funny.
Yeah, yeah. But, yeah, you can always catch the suspect at least, the one time because you can tell who
But then what
shared
do you
Leroy
do
Jenkins.
about it?
Unsubscribe, which doesn't help a whole lot because once it's out on the web, the
Yeah,
interwebs, we all know that it's out
Mhm.
there, so.
it's out there.
But I'm
Find
not
it.
fully complaining because I do like to look through the catalogs, and I'm doing a lot of that this time
Mhm,
of year. This is my time of year that I tend to, and I think haven't we talked before about we read a little bit more, like,
mhm,
even for fun or research or look at catalogs and magazines. This is the time of the year when I have that big stack that's been collecting all year, and I do more of that stuff this time
mhm.
of year. It's kind of my time to do those things. And the cold weather, it's not all bad. The cold, kind of
No.
dark days of
And
winter, I kind of switch into that mode.
yeah, and take inventory is like one of the first things that I do. I find myself because like I'll get the seed catalogs or
Hmm.
just even like
Mhm.
equipment catalogs, right? And so like the first thing you want to do is you're like, oh, I want this and I want this, and then I go back and I realize like, well, I might already have that, and so
Yeah.
I'm kind of forced to, and
Hmm.
not forced to, but also have like the time to take some inventory on like what kind of seeds I have. Do I have enough soil to like start the season, like pro mix? And do I need to order
Hmm.
compost? Do I, all of those kinds of things, which gets me then into thinking about like maintenance of my equipment through the winter, like doing
Yeah.
oil changes or putting the batteries on charge. So like starting to think of all of those things. It's like just this spiral that happens from those seed catalogs, right? It's
It's a
like
Mhm.
click.
A to
Yeah.
B, and I just keep spiraling. And then eventually in like January, I get back to seed catalogs. I'm like, oh, right, I can order now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It just
We've
wasn't a placeholder. Yeah.
Mhm.
we've already started for, like, market-wise, right? We're just wrapping up we're kinda like it's that lull of, like, we're wrapping up everything for this previous market season. However, things are coming in already for the new market season, are ready for the
Hmm.
year's over. So, like, certifications to, like, sell in certain locations, like the produce vendor stands that are part, like, of the city,
Mhm.
like in Fayette County, you have to have or, like, your, license to be able to sell meat, like, we sell meat at the markets, like, those have already coming in for, like, new recertification for the new year, so, like, you could go ahead and,
Mhm.
like I wanna set them to the side, right? Because 'Cause I'm like, January is when I'm gonna
Right.
that's, like January is my time that I start, like, making sure that we have all the proper stuff ready to go when those market applications come out, but it's like, "Nope, I just need to go ahead and pay that," so then they'll
Mhm.
send me my certification back, and then
Hmm.
I'll already have it, and that kinda ties into those seed catalogs. It's like
Mhm.
the goal for us is, like, January because we still have, livestock and stuff to take care of through the winter, but it is,
Mhm.
like, for horticulture-wise,
Not
significantly
harvesting, yeah.
slower, and
Yeah.
being able to think of, you know, going to conferences and going and getting
Hmm.
ideas from other growers
Mhm.
and learning things during that slower time that we might wanna start implementing for the new year. Because when you're in the middle of the season, I mean, you can make changes to
Yeah.
some things, but sometimes you just gotta, like, stick it out and follow through the season because things are just so quick
Because
and
yeah,
Now's the
I
going.
forget that you guys are growers. I mean, you mentioned, you go to conferences yourself. I forget that you guys are growers and you probably go to things. This is probably your time of year to go to things as like commercial producers and, probably the same for you, Alexis, I guess, isn't
Mhm.
it? You probably go to
Mhm.
things for you personally
Yeah, it's
during the
kind of
long
fun.
days of
You
winter.
get to go pull double duty because it's like you're there. Like I might be speaking, and then the speaker after me, I'm like, oh, I get to listen to what
Yeah,
they have to
yeah.
say. So it's kind of fun to pull the double duty on those. What's your all's like favorite conference during conference season?
I don't know. I'm not going to mention a specific event, but I'm thinking more of the format of events. As I love
Mhm.
those conferences that have a blend of like, tracks broken down
Mhm.
into like themes. But I
Mhm.
love those conferences that have also like that do a good job with a gathering point. like a
Yeah.
networking section, or heaven forbid there's a magazine section. I can go and pick up and put my names on more lists.
I will take
I
this
do
and
love
this
those
and
areas.
this.
Yes.
Uh,
I like talking to like equipment vendors. So I like a format
yeah.
that's kind of
Mhm.
really robust and diverse. Now, that's not to knock those smaller events that may be just, big main speakers in one big room. That's fine, also, and appropriate in some situations. But I like these big, like state level events where there's all these, themed tracks going on and all these gathering
Mhm.
points. And it's built into the program to be, a networking
Social.
situation also.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
Be
social. I
able to
like the
talk to
social
that
aspect.
person
Yeah.
who, like,
Yeah.
asked a
I
question about blueberries, and then you're like,
Yes.
"Hey, meet me at the
yeah.
cider,"
Like a speaker meet and greet after the fact or something like you said. You can go up and meet and say, "Hey, that was really interesting. Can you tell me more about this or that?" Yeah, I
Mhm.
really like that
Yeah.
type of event. I know you were asking about specific events, but now this
That's
is
okay.
sparking my
Yeah.
brain to think about those specific events. Yeah.
I like you said, the ones that have the different tracks
Yeah.
because it gives you the opportunity. Because there's things at some of these conferences we go to, like I have years of experience of growing tomatoes.
Mhm.
And, finding out the new tomato varieties is important and stuff too. But there might be something going on that I have never grown before or just
Mhm.
like have always wanted to grow. And maybe you try to convince my husband that we should grow. But then I can go to this track, really quickly and be like, oh no, we should not do that. Or get super motivated and very excited and be like, hey, I went to this, one talk and it sounds really cool. We should do this. So I like those that have like the variety of things that you can
Mhm.
go like outside your norm um, to see. And then like, I don't know if you mentioned like the convention kind of marketing stuff. Because at some of these, I've been able to find like really great like packaging for products,
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah,
like
I
some
really like the
compostable,
production and marketing
yeah,
aspects.
like
Yeah.
shells for like berries and find some other really unique products from sometimes like local businesses that are just starting up that you don't really know about, because you might have been
Mhm.
ordering from something like on a more national level.
Yeah.
But like I always find some good things that way too when there's that combo with like convention wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the other stuff that's maybe not just growing aspects of it. It's those parts that a lot of us as like growers we really enjoy growing things, production, right? That's why we get into it. But the business side of it, the marketing side of it, those other things for some of us can be a little bit more
Mm.
taxing. And so
No pun
there's
intended.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Nice one,
yeah, like taxes,
Alexis.
like stuff like
Tax
Brett,
that.
you
season.
should be
Look at
proud.
me pulling a Brett.
You did a Brett just now. It was
Did
amazing.
a just now, but there's
Not as easy as I make it look, is it?
it's
No,
not.
it's
I mean,
tough.
I mean, it
It's
was
tough
kind
to
of
float
easy,
that.
but but the opportunity to go to things like that for sometimes they're shorter, sometimes they're longer, and just see what's out there and what new things might make my life a little bit easier or just easier
Mhm.
ways to go about doing something, and like to get access to the specialist or the expert in the room, and whether it's another grower, whoever it is, that can help me with that. So if it's Brett and he's talking about marketing of something really specific, I know that he has some knowledge on that. So like as a grower, I can go and be like, hey, can I get your email, and ask questions of the right people. Whether in real time or down the road when I'm trying to do it by myself. So like that's always nice. And I'm trying to convince myself more to talk to those like vendors like that are tabling, because now I'm a person who does some of that tabling with CCD, and so I'm like, I need to like actively, I just want to like walk by and see what they have, but talking to them, it's always
That's like
amazing,
picking
like
up
the
and
stuff
making a
they
phone
know.
call.
Yeah,
It's
it's
tough.
like
It's tough.
Mhm.
it can be tough, but then once you
Yeah,
do
it
it
can
like the
be.
first time, talking to everybody else is much better. And like you never know
Mm.
what grants are available, or like Jessica said, like you can ask if you see that they have a plastic clamshell sitting on the table, you might say, "Hey, do you guys carry any compostable ones?" And they might have like a whole big resource, or at least tell you where to go for that kind of thing. And so I'm convincing myself to be an extrovert at tabling events, and I'm convincing you all too.
Yeah, it's always neat, and I'm thinking of groups like, I don't know, the orchard groups in the state. There's a lot of different themed groups of producers around the state. But I have noticed over many years that I'll see the same group of producers sitting in a little corner eating lunch together outside
Yes.
of the convention. That is so, so neat to me, and they've been doing it for 25 years, and they formed almost like a family, a really tight-knit little group, and they may only see each other during this event, but they get together. I will see them every time, and that just speaks to the fact that these winter conferences and events are kind of cool from a social aspect, because I know those relationships might have been made at the event or maybe outside of the event, but I see them together every year, and it's so cool to me that they've had that relationship, and you just know they're over there talking about everything in the world, what's going on, this, that, and the other, just kind of catching up, and it's really neat when I see that at these events.
Also, if you're, the beginning of the year, and if you're farming, especially, horticulture crop, there's probably not a lot of money coming in at that time. So it can be hard to spend, maybe 80,
Yeah.
$100 or something. Plus, if you're traveling and having to stay the night somewhere, I totally understand that that can be a little bit of a hardship, but just some things to think about. Just throwing it out there. Remember, this is a write off. You can write that off as education. That's really important and can be helpful come tax time. Which it's gonna be tax time soon.
It's right
Um,
around the corner.
it's
Yep.
right around the corner,
Sounds
but
like very threatening.
also look for, grant opportunities that could be out there. Again, going to these tables, you can find out about those type of grant opportunities. Like specifically, I know this, we reach people not in Kentucky, but there's a lot of Kentucky people who listen. For example, Kentucky State University has grant opportunities, very easy to fill out grant opportunities specifically for education. And so they'll pay your registration fee, they'll pay, for a room for you, and you can go to a couple. So whether you're in Kentucky or outside, kind of looking for those opportunities can be really helpful as kind of conference season gets started.
Yeah.
So,
So we've talked about like what we like about some of these things, and maybe we can circle back to what you originally asked before I totally derailed us, Alexis.
no, not at all.
Is and I know that maybe you and Brett and some others go to a lot of statewide, both in state and out of state. But what are some specific kind of cool conferences that you guys see? I mean, I know there's a lot going on, and it's no coincidence that a lot of the conferences involving producers happen during the winter months, these months over the next 2 or 3 months. But what are some cool ones, like more specifically?
I'll give a shout out to
Yeah.
the Eastern Kentucky Farmers
Mm.
Conference,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is coming up in February. I was on a planning call earlier this week, and they have put together a really cool program. But I think, to your all's point, yeah, one of my professors that teaches one of the classes that I take is kind of a nerd. So he says stuff like, the base of the word conference is confer, and you're there to confer with each other. And his degree is in philosophy, so
Of course it is.
but jokingly, I mean, his point, I think, is well taken, and it's one that I think sometimes people in the ag technical assistant support world overemphasize the like formal educational components of the conference. And honestly, in like the more private sector world, it's almost not about that at all. It's
Yeah.
almost entirely about the networking and the relationship
Hmm.
building and the potential leads and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's something to that. And the energy at that conference is very it feels very community oriented. I really like that about it.
Yeah, I'm playing off of that. Something I'm excited about because the community part of it, I think, is so important for growers. A lot of us don't get off farm, and if we do, it's not with other farmers, right? So, uh, I'm excited about the Kentucky Fruit and Vegetable Conference, which is the 5th, 6th, and 7th, I believe, of January. So coming up here, but they're doing a lot more roundtable style events like within these, and this is a conference that has those kind of tracks like Ray was saying. So example, and everybody knows I'm in the cut flower world, there's a during the cut flower track, they're doing like a whole kind of grower roundtable, which I think is really valuable because we were getting a lot of feedback from growers that they're like, we love the education. We know we need to know about IPM of Bells of Ireland, but we also want to know, you know, where so and so got the netting for their Bells of Ireland, and just like little stuff like that. How did you deal with this? What are your marketing strategies? What website platform do you like to use? You know, like just crazy little questions, like not crazy, but little questions like that can be really helpful. And so having sort of that roundtable, I think, helps in like start those conversations. So when people leave or they go to break afterwards, more of that can happen. And I'm excited to see that happening more at conferences.
Yeah.
Breaking it up
Intentionally,
a little
yeah.
bit, yeah, a little bit more intentionally by the
No, didn't
planners
don't
of it.
their last 2 or 3 years, they've actually even changed the format of, like, lunches to bring that on site, and I don't
Mhm.
know if that
Yeah.
was, what the motivation for that was, but it's had the effect of keeping everyone in one place, and I see a lot of people just mingling and talking to
Mhm.
speakers and producers and things, and I thought that was a cool change. Of course, the Fruit and Vegetable Conference is a big one,
Mhm.
and they've made changes to reflect, trends and things over the years, but, aren't they changing locations again this year coming up? We probably
It's in
should mention
Lexington
that.
again this year.
It
It's
Mhm.
come
it is
back to
in back
Lexington,
in
yeah.
Lexington. It was in Lexington for several years and then went out to West Kentucky, towards West Kentucky at Bowling Green for a few years. And now it's back to Lexington. But don't be confused when you go to to check out that event. It's not at the embassy. It's actually across the road this year at
Yeah.
Marriott Griffin Gate. And my truck is going to be on autopilot when I think of and I usually do not miss the Fruit and Vegetable Conference. It's one of my absolute favorite ones that contains a lot of these aspects we've been talking about, these social aspects and tracks and things. But my truck's going to be on autopilot and go right into the embassy suite, so
You're
I'm going to
like,
Right.
have to
"I'm in the
turn
wrong
Same.
around.
place. There's no
Yeah,
cars." Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to
You're
have
like,
to
"I
then
got
drive
great
across.
parking this year," right? If you go to the, because
It's
it's
like,
always
yeah,
tight
wow,
parking,
I
right?
can park right up front, and then I roll in there, and then no one's there, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Marriott Griffin Gate. So, yeah, that's a good one. That's one of the ones I
That's
really enjoy.
one of my, well, ones I always go to and favorite ones, and had the opportunity to help there as a student, right? So, like, getting exposure to some of the tracks that they had before getting really into my own farmers market kinda business, and that's something like, Alexis mentioned, like, there's a flower track, there's usually, like, a fruit producer's one, a vegetable growers, but then there's also usually a, like, farmer's market one where you can, like,
Yes.
especially great for those who are interested in it, like, because I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are like, "I'm gonna join the farmer's market," and I just fill out an application and I'm there. But, like, as I already mentioned, like, we're already having to do certification,
Mhm.
different markets require different things, there's different state rules. State rules are always changing, and the fruit and vegetable conferences have, often a good place to find out about some of these things,
Well,
like
like
when the
KDA
home
people are there. Yeah.
yeah, the KDA
Yeah.
people are there, so,
Department of
like,
Ag, yeah.
Yes.
when
Department of Ag.
home-based processing rules changed, they were able to, share there and present and kinda get ahead of the season. So that's always a good resource,
And
especially.
if you're not in Kentucky and you're like, all of this is really great for Kentucky, most states have some
Mhm.
version of like a specialty crop conference or a beginner farmer conference, or like there's, I mean, a lot going on there, but most states have that, and it's usually linked to, usually not always, but usually linked to in some way that land grant institution, university that is there, because you've got specialists there who do that. So I would encourage you to go. I'm going to a Midwest one. I'm speaking at one, and I think it's like the Midwest Specialty Crop Conference, and I'm excited about that. I've spoke at one. Indiana has a really great one. Illinois has a really great one. So with these sort of like tracks, whether you're beginner or more advanced. Like I know ours has a beginner farmer track, but it has advanced tracks in veg, in fruit, so it doesn't really matter where you are in your journey. There's something for you, which I think is really helpful
Mhm.
if you're going to
Just
invest the time and money into going.
just to quickly kind of spam just some of the the names so you can look them up. We're not going to do the whole date, rundown, but just in case, one big shout out to our friends at the Organic Association of
Mhm.
Kentucky, who have an
Mhm.
excellent conference that is happening
It's a
this
great
year in,
one.
in late January. There, I would say, as far as people regionally who are looking for some interesting opportunities, there is a specialty crops conference in Ohio, but
Mhm.
there's also one called OEFFA, OEFFA, which is Ohio Ecological Food and Farming Association. That's a nice one. Um, Alexis mentioned the Indiana Small Farms Conference. There's also a West Virginia Small Farms Conference. If you're listening to this now, unfortunately, you just missed the Virginia Farm to Table or Farm to Plate Conference, but that's another one to take a look at. Tennessee has the Pick Tennessee Conference, and I've gone to all these and tabled at many of them at their trade shows and stuff across time. And yeah, I think connecting with community, finding community, and finding people where you are who are interested in similar stuff to you can be really energizing and exciting. Or it can be in a more utilitarian way. It can be good for business. It can be good for connections in
Mhm.
that way too. And so, just those are just in case you are feeling lonely as you're listening to this podcast and you've somehow found us through the internet airwaves. Those are some names to Google to find a
And I
conference
would
near
say
you.
if you tend to be a little bit more introverted at conferences, as someone who's been like a speaker as well as just like an attendee at conferences, if you maybe don't know anybody, go up and talk to the speaker, because a lot of the time they're, well, they are hopefully involved in whatever they're speaking at. But if you're going to something like you want to grow strawberries, so you're in a strawberry talk, go talk to the speaker who's talking about something on strawberries, tell them kind of what you're doing, and I bet they'll introduce you to somebody. So like if you're kind of like iffy, I'm awkward when like meeting new people and try to like insert myself into groups, and have found that that's like helpful. And then as someone who's been a speaker, it's really nice to be like, oh, you're wanting to grow this, oh, so and so, might be there in the room, and you can introduce them, and then you can get into community that way. So just a little tip as someone who has been that awkward person and is like, well, but I know they're growing that, but how do I go talk to them and not make it weird? If you're feeling lonely, that's good.
Lead.
Oh, I got to tell you guys about something
Oh,
exciting. Speaking of winter, so we're talking about like things we do in the winter, and one thing I have started doing is like taking advantage of sales for things that I need in business. So, like your Black Friday sales or your Christmas sales. And so, like stocking up on all my stickers or my cards or any of that, like little stuff that it often runs like on super sale this time of year. And I was really excited well, 2 weeks ago or last week, I don't know what day it is. There was a Black Friday sale, and for years, so I do a CSA, and for years I've been saying for my CSA members who do like a really big deluxe share, I'd love to get them like a little calendar that has all the pickup dates, because they just pick up
Oh,
once a month,
nice.
pickup dates in it. And every year I go, oh, I should have done that. And of course I forget because it's, April and I don't, want it, and then it's way too expensive. I got them for like super duper cheap last week, and I got to put all of our photos in there from, the farm. And so it's kind of branding, and it's like kind of a little something special for those CSA people who keep coming back and they are buying the kind of deluxe one. So start thinking about that kind of stuff as well, and take advantage of some of those like New Year sales that often happen, and grabbing, just stickers for your jars,
Labels
your,
for
yeah,
products, yeah.
labels. I got labels at like a really great price. I was like, give me all of them. So think
it's
about that kind of stuff too.
seems like this time of year is like the business end of things. I mean, you're thinking about taxes or record keeping or restocking supplies, like
Hmm.
Jessica mentioned earlier, or you were just talking about Alexis. It's
Yeah, that's
like
a better way to say it.
it,
Restocking supplies, not just go
yeah,
buy
Yeah.
things.
it's a sale on
Spending
stickers.
money.
But
Yeah.
Buy
yeah, but
stickers because you can.
all these things are critical and they make a big difference when you're way too busy with producing things
Hmm.
during the long days of summer. Then you're probably not going to take the same kind of time and thought and buy them,
Right.
or you're going to buy them at that time and it's going to be at a much higher price point. So
It's
yeah, these are like
it's
the days of restocking. Yeah.
it sounds silly, but it's like we do a lot of canned items, and it's super stressful in the middle of the summer to come up with a label. Like, it's not hard to do, right? It's
Right.
not hard to make a new label for a product, but, like, taking the time to do it, make sure it
Just
looks
them.
right,
Yeah.
sending it, it gets, like, reviewed, and then, like, then remembering to, like, oh, yeah, I have to
order
approve it
them.
because it's
Yeah.
like, come back and then,
Here's my
and then
credit card. I haven't seen it since the farmer's market. Like,
right, and, like, all of that stuff versus,
Yeah.
like, "All right, we're gonna do this in the winter months, we're gonna order as many as possible,"
mhm,
right, and it's not as much, like, pressure to, like,
mhm.
get it all done.
Yeah,
Um
and I've been looking at those notes I've been taking throughout the year, which are like chicken scratch scribbled into a notebook, like need more June, like just random things I ultimately have to decipher.
In your
But
journal.
there is some of those like things, and so that's when I start opening that book back up and I start looking at that. So it's not just like production, like I'm looking at that too. Last year I started lilies on June 1st and they weren't ready when I needed them, so I need to start them 2 weeks earlier. But also just like the random little things, ran out of stickers, ordered 100, need more, that kind of stuff, is really helpful in supporting spending that money, because again, you're like
Mhm.
starting to get into the tight season and you're like, I'm not gonna have money coming in for 3 or 4 months. So being like, okay, but I know I need this and I can justify those payments.
And that's so Alexis just mentioned, like, garden journals or, like, your little business jour does everyone have one of those? Like, I know Alexis
Brett, do
has
you
one,
have
I
one for
have
your
one.
bonsai?
Do you have, like, a little journal for
I
them?
have yeah, I have spreadsheets. No one will be
Yeah.
surprised. Um,
Excel all the way
and
down.
notes, and
Yeah.
I do everything digital. But yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think of it kind of like it goes in two directions. One is that past Brett has made pleas to the current Brett, or present Brett can do favors for future Brett.
I love it.
There
Yes.
you go.
And this is a time of year where those things are done, because at
Mhm.
some point you reach a kind of frantic cabin fever moment, and you're like, I just want to do something. And even those things that sound terrible, like going through seed inventory or something like that, for some people would be terrible, for some people would be great. But it's a nice time to have some ability to do that, and to think about how things went poorly, or that you want them to go differently from this past year, based on either notes that you've hopefully taken for yourself, which I think is a great, if you have the presence and the wherewithal to do that, and the memory to do that, it's great. And then also thinking like, in June, wouldn't it be really cool if I had all this stuff ready to go and don't have to worry about it? So we talk about, like, for instance, in the marketing world, this time of year, this time being winter, could be a good time to think about, like, maybe making some templates for communications or social media, or
Yeah.
gathering some pictures and having stuff ready to go. Everybody thinks that social media, and that marketing in general, I think, not everybody thinks, many people seem to think that it's like really spontaneous, and it's like intensely creative, and it's, and I think there is some of that, but a lot of it,
Mhm.
some really successful marketing campaigns can be built on the most boring planning that you can imagine. And it's just that the timing of the delivery is good. And so
Mhm.
again, in May, when it's time to be doing all the things that you need to do to get caught up in the field and etc., if you have some social media posts in the hopper that you can just launch and push, or if you have your, let's say, first week of farmers market, you have a template of, this is what we're going to have, that I'm going to send out to my email list, or that I'm going to somehow share. Those are things you can do now that don't require a timeliness, and they also, in general, they don't require money, which is
Mhm.
cool too. But yeah, so definitely yes, I keep records on stuff, and have done that with when I was gardening more.
Mhm.
But yeah, bonsai surprisingly is extremely logistical, and
Not
timing of
surprised.
year is really important on a lot of things. And so being having a sense of when you're going to do things, and exactly what you're talking about, timing of like June 1st was way too early or way too late, is,
Mhm.
is helpful. But yeah, I think of that as like future and present and past versions of me all trying to help each other out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming together.
Yeah,
You
that's
mentioned,
a cool way to
cabin
think about it.
fever. Yeah, it's real. It's real.
I like to say that, like, when planning, especially for stuff and with work and, like, extension and our county fair, right? So I,
Uh-huh.
like, always at the end of county fair make a notes that are like, so, like, I have one that's like, "County Fair 2025, what I need to do." That's what it's called, like,
Uh-huh.
in my on my computer, and I'm like, "Future Jessica will thank." Well, thank
Yeah.
you for this.
I hate
Right. And
when
I
you're in
usually
that
do every year. I'm just like, look at me on top of things because
I
I
hate
forced
when
myself to
you're
do
in
it
that
when I was
moment
tired.
and you're just like, "God, past Alexis was the
What
worst."
have
Yeah.
you done? Why
Why
did
I
you
did
Every
I
used to
do
do
have a
this?
this?
notebook
yeah,
that
every
said,
once
"You
in a
have
while.
time now, but you will not later." And
Mhm.
it reminded me it was to get stuff done book. I
It's
mean,
Yeah.
like the concrete example is like putting your hoses away for the year.
Mhm.
Take the time to kind of like get the rag out and wipe them down and coil them nicely and hang them up where they go versus just like, it's gonna freeze, pull
Mhm.
this out,
mine's
throw
still laying out
everything.
back,
And
Brett. Mine's
yep,
still laying out back,
I have
laying
some too.
all the way down to the garden. Yeah, yeah,
Future Brett and Ray are shaking their heads at us
Mine's
right
on
now.
a
yeah.
hose reel, but it is still outside, and it's gonna remain there.
Somebody ran over part of ours, so like it doesn't like work right, and it's still there, and I'm like, why haven't we thrown this away? Like
Yeah.
we just I've accepted we have to buy a new one, right? So,
But
and
I
it's
like
still
doing these
there.
kind of things. I like doing these kind of things in the winter, and it's weird when I'd get cabin fever in the past when we were producing and growing lots of things. Um, one of my favorite things to do, we had a couple of equipment sheds, and then we had like these decommissioned tractor trailers we had on different spots of the farm that functioned as mobile equipment sheds. But like I would go out and organize those. Like everything needed greasing, joints needed greasing, things needed oil changed, blades sharpened, just and things were just a mess. We would just throw stuff in equipment areas and it's just complete junk. But I always a part of my brain, the type A part of my brain, love going in during the wintertime when there's nothing else I can do. And, these are in covered sheds or things that mostly unheated. But I just go in and organize and I love doing that. And I have fond memories of being able to do that, but it also not only allowed me to help get things ready and straighten things up to, but it's like the future, Ray. You were making that investment, you knew that it had to be done. You could not leave the equipment area in this state of disrepair and disarray. Like you were saying, Jessica, it's all the broken things laying around. I'm like, what in the world is this, combine, or what is this sitting here for, busted? Why do we still have this? But I always enjoyed those kind of things in the wintertime,
Yeah.
when not a lot's going on.
Thinking about like something else, like I claim like beekeeping as horticulture, right?
Oh,
It's
sure.
just,
Yeah.
just what it is in my life. Okay, I claim the beekeepers. Um, so my father-in-law and my husband and everybody, they'll work on building bee equipment during the winter, right? So they're like building new frames and building new bee boxes, and like that's the perfect time to do that to get ready because as we know with bees, once it actually gets warm and we get through the fake warm spells that are stressful for beekeepers,
Yeah.
False warm.
um, they get going, right?
Yeah.
And they're building their numbers fast, and you might run out of hive, supers
Food
very
or yeah.
quickly to,
Yeah.
put on there. So winter is a great
Mine's
time
like
to build
mine's potting
beehives.
soil. Like like there's nothing worse than you're starting your seed and you're like, "Okay, I'm ready and everything needs to be started this week," and then you're out of potting soil. Oh my
Talk
gosh. So
about ordering pallets. You better get
I
that
bought
done ahead of time.
I bought twice as many bales as I normally bought because I'm like, "It doesn't go as bad. It can just sit here until I
Right.
need it." So,
Just
Did you
save
get
it.
a
I
deal
am
on it?
already in that mindset of like,
yeah.
I don't have enough. I don't
I
have
don't know.
enough. I'm not gonna have
Well,
enough.
next time, listen. Ray, I don't think goes to the produce supply places, but there's three
Alexis,
of
I was
us
gonna
here
say
who
the
always
same thing.
shop we text each other, and I'm like, I'm going tomorrow.
Okay.
What do you
Well,
need? So
put me on the list because I'm gonna need more perlite. More perlite.
Yeah, we
immediately,
keep
yes.
it immediately, we're always like, "Hey, I'm heading that way. Do you need
Mhm,
anything?" Or
mhm.
like, "I got
Usually,
a
it's like
truck."
I went, or I'm going
Yeah.
tomorrow. Don't worry about it. I need too much, but every
Or
once in a
like,
Only
"I'm in
while,
ask
a"
that if you have an extra space to haul stuff because
yeah,
people
or
will
it's
need
like,
something.
"I'm
which
in
I
the
do
truck
need things if you're
today,
going.
so I can get, like, lots of big things because 'cause I'm in the truck." So
Well, Jessica, just as a side note, USDA defines honey and those products as specialty crops and horticultural
okay,
crops. So you
yeah,
don't have
claim
to
them.
defend yourself
It's
to
not animal
anybody.
science.
That's
Mhm.
No.
right.
You tell them you have the power of the federal
I
government behind
mean,
you.
I do tell people that they're mini
I was gonna say
livestock, right?
my
Because
old
they're
ag agent called them
animals.
tiny livestock. Yeah.
Because people are like, "What? A bee is an animal," right? Um, but so I'm always just like, I claim them as mine.
They're
As
fun
they
group.
fall.
I think they're better than livestock. I'll just say
I'd
it that
rather
way.
have them than
Yeah.
like the random squirrel questions I used to get. I'm like, I don't know about the squirrels in your attic. I can't help you. I know about
Mm,
plants.
Right.
squirrels in your attic.
Snakes.
The
I
squirrel in
now
your
know a
washing
lot about
machine.
snakes.
Squirrels
Because
in the
people
attic
think
and snakes on a plane. Wow.
Well, I'll
people think
give a
snakes and insects are the same. Tell me how they're the same. Go.
snakes and insects.
Yeah, why do you think I
Yeah,
know about snakes? Because I
I
know
don't
about
Because
know.
they're
insects.
gross, so people don't like
Can
them.
Things
you
that
help
creep
me?
and
I
Can
crawl
don't
you help
think
for
me
they're
with my
gross.
husband's
$200,
They
please.
problems?
One
Because my
has
husband and insects are similar.
one has 6 legs and one has no legs. How are
How are they the
those
same?
the same?
Totally the same. Totally the
I mean,
same.
6 is pretty close to 0 in the grand
I mean,
scheme. It's closer
Right?
than a
closer to
millipede.
0 than 50. I
Yeah,
mean, if
if
you're
they like,
being
if they ask about a
technical.
millipede and a snake, I'd say, okay, hold on,
I
1,000
don't know, but
legs.
what
Yeah,
they those ones do kind of look similar besides the legs. You
that's
Yeah,
cut
I
those
true.
legs
know,
off.
but
Is it a
but if we're
baby
going on
snake? I
legs,
don't
6 is
know.
pretty close.
Winter,
Uh,
you
The
can tell
calls
by
you
this
get in
group's
extension.
discussion. Yes, these are we're already getting the winter slap happiness.
well, I'll
You
give a
know,
quick plug to the introverts that Alexis mentioned earlier, who go to the conference. I think it's good. It can be helpful and all those things, and I think do your planning and all that kind of stuff. But for me, winter is also a really good time to like intensively learn by myself, mostly through the internet or books
Mm.
or other things like that. I do it kind of year round, but because I just really like to do it. But there are times where you just don't have a long period of attention or the
Mhm.
energy during the time when you do
To
have
keep up.
time to look at stuff in other times of the year. And so for me, it's like that's a big part of it. Also shapes plans too. That you're sort of like, oh, this is a new technique that I've been kind of wanting to think about learning more about, or different species or different cultivar or something like, oh,
Mhm.
cool, this is a way of doing that. And I think to there's some skepticism in some circles of like internet based education
Mhm.
that like it's like, oh, you can learn in person from a person and then that's it. But
Mhm.
man, there is a lot of, if for all the bad information there is on the internet, there's actually a lot of really good information too.
Mhm.
And a
sure.
lot of it can come from extension. I've given this tip before. If you search in Google or wherever you're searching and you at the end you write site, SITE .edu, it will give you results just from edu sources. That can be a nice way to find some extension stuff. But I mean, there's just a lot. I've learned so much, and I appreciate this time of year because people frown on you staying inside and watching YouTube less than they seem to at other times. Like, no, it's sunny out. Come outside. And I'm like, sorry, no. This
I
guy's
have.
this guy's doing some crazy pruning, and I'm gonna need to know how.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I
yeah,
have a stock like banked up. There's no way I'll probably ever get through it, but I have all these videos from organizations I'm a part of, like I'm a membership of, and they put out these really great year-round, like every month they do at least one, webinar series, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna totally look, and I have this like bank of them, and I'm just gonna just go crazy and watch all of these different webinars sitting on my couch eating cheese. Like those are my Christmas plans.
do you all watch and listen to stuff at faster than normal speed?
Sometimes 1.5. I mean, because and then when you get used to that, it's so annoying when it's
It's extremely
one to
loud.
one. Yeah. Once you're used to
I'm
listening to
actually
things,
legitimately worried about what I'm doing to my brain
are you
typing
listening?
it.
Don't say you're doing it quad speed because that'd be really weird. That'd be chipmunk
Well, I
speed.
like YouTube. It gets a max of 2 times.
Yeah, you go up to well, I think
It's
1.5 and then 2 or whatever.
yeah, I do listen to stuff at up to
And you
double
can
speed.
absorb it at that speed, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if
So
someone talks
yeah,
really slowly. I'm like, bro, we need
It's
Speed it
to.
up.
winter time, it's not always frozen.
Yeah,
the
4 times sounds like a something else.
Chipmunk, yeah.
oddly enough, I never even thought of that as an option, and now that I know about it as an
Once you
option, things are gonna
start,
change
you
for
will love
me.
it. You will
Bro,
love it.
because if you legitimately sit down and it's like an hour long video and you're like,
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it's
oh
28 minutes.
my gosh, but you can convert it to 45 or even 30.
Mhm.
And
I
because a lot of the stuff that they say in the middle is not very like it's
I
not
just kind of scroll.
Just
Like I
fluff.
like that YouTube now has like, where you can go onto, the bar and
Yes,
it'll show
that's what
you
I
like
do.
where, and I'll be like, "Ooh, yeah, that picture looks like something I might want to know about." And then but I
well
probably
here
spend as much time searching through it as I would just watching the whole thing. So,
so here's just a quick keyboard shortcut for
mm,
for those
Oh,
interested in speeding up and increasing their YouTube game. So you probably know that the left and right arrow keys will skip forward and backward by I think 10 seconds on YouTube. Other ones have
mhm.
different formats. But also if you hold shift and you hit the comma key, which is the left arrow on the like next to M above the space bar, that will slow it down one step. And if you hit the other one to the right, the period key, shift period, it will speed it up by, so it'll go from like 1 to 1.25 to 1.5 to 2. So if you like get to a section, you're like,
Oh.
whoa, whoa,
Nice.
whoa, whoa, that was way too fast. Let me hear that. Hit, left arrow key, back it up 20 seconds, and then shift down. It'll slow down to normal speed. Listen to that and bring it back up. I'm telling you,
Okay.
I got a
Game
problem,
changer.
but I do that all the time.
We're gonna learn
I'm about
so
to feed your
much.
problem,
I know,
Brett.
you're teaching me things.
There's a lot of YouTube keys.
And since YouTube, since Google's all in, we're not going to plug a product here, but Alphabet parent company, since YouTube is a part of that group, you can just copy the link and drop it into a little program called Notebook LM. It's free to use, and it will summarize that for you in whatever length you want, or give you an agenda outline of that. So I've started doing that, and it's like significantly good,
Those, like,
like
videos
2-hour
for dummies.
videos.
Yeah,
You
or
can
like
drop it in, and it will
cliff
summarize that in a
notes.
paragraph.
You guys are really tech fancy. Like,
I know.
I
I
don't
learn
know
something
any of
new
this
every
stuff.
time.
I
Yeah.
don't know. That
Would
goes
you
to
say that
speak,
you all learn best from one particular like format?
Oh,
Not like a
yeah.
digital format, but like
Yeah.
listening to a person talk versus reading versus being shown versus.
Oh, it just depends on what I'm trying to learn.
I feel like I'm a combo person.
Yeah, I'm a combo.
A combo of
Yeah.
what? I mean, if like, let's just say, what's your, we understand that we all contain multitudes, but which pole of that? So what is it? Auditory, visual, or like kinesthetic? Is that the term for it?
Yeah,
Hands-on.
I think more. I'm a little bit more kinesthetic, but show me. If you just tell me, I might not get it. Yeah,
same. I need visual.
Yeah. If I'm trying to understand the 1,000-foot view of a problem, I want the outline written
like
on paper.
If you take a video of you fixing something and there's no sound, I'm much more likely to be able to do it than if you tell me how to fix something with no video. Does that make sense? Like podcast versus YouTube.
Yeah. And if I'm in the car, it's obviously not as safe to watch YouTube. But part of it is convenience, Brett. I'm a huge fan of YouTube, and I get on there and like you and Alexis were talking about, I do deep dives on whatever topic. But when I'm in the car, I also want to hear and learn and catch up on things. So that's when I, really podcast is when I have to drive. So part of it is just situational. It may not be ideal to listen to a podcast, and I find it hard to listen to a podcast if I'm just at home. It's like then I switch to video
like
when
a
I'm in the car.
story
Yeah.
of some kind. Like
Yeah.
So it feels like your eyes and hands almost need to be occupied in order for you to listen to a podcast or to choose a podcast over some other.
Oh yeah, that's I only ever listen to a podcast when I'm like actively doing something.
Yeah.
Driving or potting or
I'm
planting
I'm
driving.
So
it's kind of situational for me, big time.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
I only read while I'm driving. It's interesting.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
Weird.
Yeah,
we call it
You're
audio.
so talented.
Texting and driving is so passe. I'm a higher social strata than
when
that.
I got really obsessed with a book series, I would read at stoplights because I was like, I have to know what happens.
Oh my gosh.
So,
oh man.
That's key. That's very.
One of those
started
people.
out.
I was at least
stopped
stopped moving.
You're wearing your glasses today, so it's giving bookworm.
Yeah.
Gilmore Girl
I do
vibes.
have for the first time ever 2 books going at the same time. So
Wow.
I don't believe that. Somehow I don't believe that's true. I believe that this is
2
not
very,
a new thing for
very
you.
different books. So that's the only way I can keep them. And I only read one in the morning and one in the evening. So
wow, night book, day book, and night book.
It's
Do
my
you have an
coffee
audio book
book
going at the same
and
time?
my evening book. Yeah.
Wow.
We're just reading a construction trucks Halloween book on repeat every night.
Okay.
You and Sean?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Sean reads it to
Wow.
her
Little
on
book
Monday,
club of
Tuesday,
2.
Wednesday.
Yes. And a book from the Dolly Parton series. Those are the best books that Dolly Parton sends you in the mail about solitary animals. And now my kids go around and go,
Aw.
a sloth, it's a solitary animal. An eagle, it's
They're
a solitary
so
animal.
smart.
It's a ray. It's wintertime. It's a
A
solitary
hurdle
animal.
of what hummingbirds is called a charm. So now I know.
Oh my God, is it really?
Yeah, a group
A
of
charm.
hummingbirds.
I learned, speaking of birds and as collective groups, I learned recently that, you know how we say you've heard probably that crows, a group of crows, is called a murder, right? It's a murder
Mhm.
of crows. That's actually only something used by the common folk. That's not real in science. And now I'm
Oh.
disappointed. Yes, they don't call it anything specific.
How did you learn that? Which format? I
What
I
do
want to
they
learned it
know.
from a
call it?
podcast.
Okay, podcast. Gotcha.
Yeah.
What do they call
Okay.
it?
Huh? I don't think they
A group of
have a.
birds.
That is not in
It's
our
just a
book,
group of.
but swallows are called a gulp, I can tell you that.
Okay. Like a big gulp is a big group of
Big gulp of
swallows.
swallows.
Earlier today. Okay, wow, that is
I mean, just
that's
the fact that someone was like, "We're gonna call this bird a swallow," but you know what? We'll call a group of them a whole gulp.
oh
Like
wait, is that
that's
Yeah.
a joke?
Or is that real?
That's
is it a
real.
joke or real?
Okay.
Oh, I
No,
thought it was a
no.
joke.
No,
It's
no.
in the book.
Okay, it
I
was in the book,
retract.
Brett.
I retract my laugh,
Thank
The
you.
solitary
and now
animal
I
Take it
gotta
book.
back.
treat it as a serious fact.
Brett was seriously impressed with your
Unless Dolly
wittiness there for a
I
Parton
minute.
thought
is
that was
lying,
that was really good.
and I doubt she
That's
would
good.
lie.
So good. That is so good.
It can be
Dolly
both. All
cannot
right,
tell a
they're not
lie.
mutually exclusive, Brett. It can be really great and also true. So
There you go.
I mean, for
Rarely,
some
rarely.
people, I can see that for some people. Not for me though. I personally laugh retracted. Sorry, Jessica.
This is what happens in the
Oh,
long
it's
days
very
of
funny.
winter. We
the,
get involved in all kinds of activities
the
and
weird slap
listening
happiness of winter.
and
Yes.
Mhm.
Well,
conferences and things.
maybe
Yeah.
we should sum this up for people so that they can get on to their YouTube watching and all of the great things.
Yes.
So
Man,
try
I
to
hope
sum.
people were listening to us at like quadruple speed. That would be really cool
That's
for
what I
me to
was
It would make
thinking when you
much more
mentioned that. We're gonna
sense.
sound like chipmunks.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I want. We want to know in the comments. Leave a comment on what speed you listen to horticulture at.
Mhm.
How
At
about
quad
that? That's
speed,
the
it's called an
request.
Alvin.
Give us some stars while you're at it. We would appreciate it. It helps people find the pod so they can also listen to us at quadruple speed. But it doesn't matter because they're still listening and hopefully getting something out of it. So you do you, whatever fits. Follow us on Instagram if you should so please at Horticulture Pod. And we post up in there, remind you we got some episodes coming out, share about our guests and how awesome they are. So we'd love to have you join us on there. You can also ask us questions. You can shoot us an email. That email is in the show notes. If you have any plant questions, because we are, after all, plant people. So if you want to know about those bonsais that Brett talks about all the time, he can probably point you to some great YouTube videos, as well as tell you all of the things, because he will tell you all of the things. If you want to know about any of those conferences, also feel free to reach out. We'll post, maybe some links. There's a couple links
Yeah.
that have all of them, at least for Kentucky, in there that you can check out. And so we encourage you to do that. And we just thank you for being here with us today. We hope to see you at some of these conferences. If you are there, please give us a shout and tell us what you love and that you think we're pretty cool, because that makes us feel pretty cool. So thank you guys for being with us today. And we hope as we grow this podcast, you will grow with us. Have a great one.